I want to welcome you to this very first webinar for this time zone, first webinar for Rapido. I see from the attendant list that we have many people that were part of our development partners and our early adapters partners program for Rapido. So it's really, really nice to see you here. But I'm also seeing a lot of other people that were not part of that program, people that are not part of Rapido. So it's really great to have this big audience here today. And first, I want to say that this session is being recorded and you will be able to find it on demand under the Ex Libris site under the educational programs. So if for some reason your colleagues couldn't come or you want to point this presentation to someone else, you can let them know that where it is. And of course, I want to encourage you to, while everyone's signing in, to encourage you to sign up for our next webinars. And for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing. So again, I'll ask from someone in the audience to let me know if you're seeing my screen. Thank you, Svetlana. And what I think we'll do is we're just going to kick it off. And I suggest that we leave the questions to the end or the middle. I'll tell you when, and I will be able to unmute you and you will be able to ask questions and then we'll continue. So let's see what we have planned for today. Okay, so first I want to give a short update of where the Rapido community stands. For those of you that are not part of Rapido, we see this as a community. We're doing resource sharing between us. So it's like with other products in Ex Libris, but especially with resource sharing, this is in a real sense, a community. I want to present to you the new features for the February release. I believe they will be deployed on your sandboxes next week. And if we have time, I would like to touch on a little topic. I'll try to bring little topics, questions that are asked, or little things that I can add to you from the experience that we've had with our Rapido, implementing Rapido with our first customers. So let's start with the Rapido community. So the first thing is that we're growing in an amazing pace. It's amazing. Last month, this month, actually, we have 4 new live customers in North America, which is amazing. We're really, really happy. And also we have our US pod live and running, which is fantastic. And we have at this moment about 90 institutions that are in a different stage of implementing or live in Rapido or implementing or about to implement Rapido. So our community is growing in an amazing pace and it's really exciting. So we'll see also our pods grow, and also I hope to see many more collaboration between you guys in terms of resource sharing. Now, what we just giving a little bit of background also, because I know there are people here that used to meet with me and the team on a monthly basis, and now we're meeting through this different format. It's open to everyone. It's in a webinar format. We're also starting the work around the Rapido user group, and very shortly there will be an announcement, and whoever wants to be part of that group, we will love to have you there and continue those in-depth conversations about workflows and directions. So for those that are interested in that, stay tuned. There will be a message pretty soon. Okay, and with that, we'll move to the Rapido February release highlights. I also want to give some context to the story so that those that don't know Rapido will understand where they're coming from. And I think that when we finish this section, we'll go into, I'll close the sharing and we'll have a little chat on, I'll let you ask your questions. I'll try to answer them. So let's start with our first our first two enhancements for this release, and I want to explain where they come from. So as you know, in Rapido starts from discovery to delivery. And from the discovery part, you know that the Rapido tiles where the patrons are requesting, they are actually the experience that you're giving. This is experience the library, the institution is giving to them. So for this upcoming release, we have 2 more fine tunes to that experience. And in future release, and we continue to work on this. So this is something that has been part of our vision of how the user experiences requesting through Rapido. And there's going to be more to come. So the first one is related to how users request digital request, what we call document delivery for music score, for the resource type music scores. And the second one is related to when an offer is displayed for certain types of records that your institution might have. So these are records, specifically records, that the methodology, these are electronic resources where the methodology is linking record, meaning the link in the record will lead the users into the resource. So we'll talk about these 2 experiences from the user perspective. I want to start with the music scores. The first thing, so what we did here for music score is we added a new dedicated form for requesting digitization of a portion of a score. What was happening in previous versions was that if you recall, we have a physical type. So a music score can be a book that has a few scores, right? So the physical resource could be requested, while the digitization was very limited to just that digitization form that we have to articles. And the problem that we had there is that the user couldn't actually tell you exactly what he was looking for. So this is what we have added in this release. You can see here that the resource type is score. As I mentioned before, we're getting the option. Our using is the user is getting the option to get a physical copy in 4 days and keep it for 56 days long, or get a digitization copy. And here's where our change has come. You can see we've added fields now to this request. And there are specific fields. There are specific fields for the type of resource. You can see we have from page to page. Of course, this is not only for scores, but the possibility was missing, and it's very, very important. Composer, opus, song movement, part, etc. Still, this is a digitization request, a document delivery. So you need to, of course, have the user sign or agree to the copyright statement. And that's it. We have the new fields. Here's the point where I have to say thank you to the Rapido community, because deciding which fields should be included was done together with you guys. So thank you. And now let's see how this impacts the system. So again, staying with the user, which is our focus now, whatever he requests will be here added to the information that he can see under the request in the patron card. So you can see this is exactly what we filled. You'll see the pages, the composer, the opus, the song movement, etc. But how is this reflected from the staff perspective? Oh, sorry, this is also still on the user perspective. He will receive, if you're using the confirmation letter, of course, these fields are part of the confirmation letter. If you've made changes and you want to add them, you can add them. But he will receive a confirmation letter with all of the information as he placed it on the request itself. So with this, we're really closing the user experience. So for me, the first improvement is that now users can specify what they really want out of that specific resource. Let's take a look at the library side of things. Okay, so what we're looking at is at the borrowing request. Okay, so where I'm in the borrowing request. If I click here, edit, I will see those fields filled up as you see them here. And of course, in the right pane, and with all of the capabilities of the right pane. If I would click on the little pen here, sorry, here, hope you see my cursor. If I would click there, I could be edit them if there needs to be something to be edited. Again, I want to stress that usually if everything's okay and you're coming from the resource in Rapido, there is really not much to do in this resource. And here, actually, I was playing with my different test environments, and you can see actually this resource went to one of our partners, and now the information has been passed on. But how is this seen from the lending side? Let's talk a little bit about the lending side. So first of all, the information is passed, as you can see here, is passed under the chapter title, meaning that I'll explain why this is not passed with the dedicated fields that we created. It is not passed because there is no standard that can, there is no specific message or field that can be passed in the standards for this particular information. So we're placing them like in document delivery for chapters or a specific part under the chapter and titles, you can see, but it's very clearly, it comes together with the field itself. So what you have here is composer, again, the song, all of the information that I actually inputted there. So from the lending perspective, he will receive it as before, but with the information. And again, if it was part of a standard, we could really fill it up in this way, but we can't. And in order to support the standard and to be able to communicate with other systems, this is the way we implement it. I want this to be clear from your side. So when you see the borrowing, you see the fields as we saw them before. When you have the lending, you have it. For me, this is an amazing development because for two reasons. One, because users can ask what they want for, and secondly, because the staff can really see with clarity what is needed. And hopefully this will improve the experience from the user side and from the staff perspective, the efficiencies. Okay, so we have the music scores. Here I'm just showing you that how it looks if you go into that edit mode. Here is from the lending perspective again. So I'm showing you how this would look here. Usually you wouldn't need to come here because you're using the right pane to look at this information. But in any case, wanted to show you. A little bit about customization. As always, our intention is that you do as minimum customization as you can. So really this this is what we're looking at is the one form that we have in order to either remove or usually is to remove fields that you don't want. And of course, we've added these fields to that list so you can decide whether you want to remove or change the description, etc. So that's one point to take care of if you're live, if you want to take a look at this. But as with any other field in our forms, you can disable the field, etc. Now, before I move on to my next development, the linking record, I just want to say that we continue this effort. So we started with music scores, and we're continuing next with conference proceedings. And as always, and this is why I mentioned the working group, if there is another resource that needs special treatment, we will work on fine-tuning. From one side, we want to be this as easy as possible and not very complex. And from the other perspective, we want the users to be able to place what they need. So we are still looking into how to make this, to tune it up to perfection almost, hopefully. Okay. Let's move to the linking record. So for electronic resources that your library has, those that are defined as full text or available online, today I think there exists two main forms for having them. So one is where you need a link resource, a URL resolver, so the actual link does not sit on the record. And this is done on the Alma side. And then you have the indication that the text is available. And the other type of resource is a resource where the actual link to the specific resource is part of the record. Before the February release, so for those that are live, what you have today is that, let's say I look for a record. In this case, I'm looking for this record. And you can see here that it's available online. I can get it from here. I can get it also from here. And then I have a resource sharing request. Now, of course, how different institutions work and where they show this Rapido offers differs. But in this case, what we want is, what our customers are saying correctly is that in this case, they don't want to offer a resource sharing option. And the reason is that actually the resource is right here awaiting for them. There is a display logic rule where you can hide the resource sharing requests, the Rapido offers, the Rapido tiles, if, for example, a service exists. So what is usually used by our customers is to hide the resource sharing options, the Rapido tiles in this case, if a full text service exists. So this was actually hiding those the resource sharing option for those records that had a URL resolver. What we've done in this release is that this full text option includes now links in record. Really, it's just kind of aligning the functionality. The bottom story is that the user doesn't care what is the linking method. And also, I believe the library staff as well. So if you're deciding that you want to hide those tiles, if there is a full text or an online way to get the resource, this would be the same configuration that you need. So if you already have this configured, there's nothing to do. If you don't have this configured, this is something you need to think about whether you want to have it or not. This is how it will look, okay? So it looks like with any other options. Here, there's our message where it says that resource sharing is allowed only under specific conditions, and you can add a link and explain. And for example, in this case, probably you will have a note about electronic resources being present in that you have availability for them in the library. You don't provide resource sharing services. Okay, so this covers from my side the part about the user experience. These are two of the developments. I also want to mention, because I missed it at the beginning, I'm presenting some highlights, but please, once the documentation is ready, go. This was a very packed version with development, so there might be more things that you're interested in. And now we're going to move from here to the staff perspective. Okay, so one thing that we're adding from the staff perspective, both for borrowing requests and lending requests, is the possibility to assign a particular request to a user. So a new action has been added. So you can see here, for those of you that haven't seen Rapido, this is the task list with the request. In this particular case, I'm showing borrowing requests. Under the actions button, we have a new action assigned to. So this fulfillment managers, I think, can use the action to assign to a user. Once I click this action here, I'm assigning it to my user, Benjamin. And in this case, I want to send him an email, and I'm also adding a note, and then I will click assign to, and this will be assigned to him. So you can see now from the request itself, I can see clearly to who that this request is assigned. Now I'll go into it at the end of this mini section for assigning requests to users, but you know what, I'll tell it in a second when I get there, what are the different options for viewing, okay, for viewing requests. So I just want to say that requests don't disappear for everyone. It's not that you're not able to see requests assigned to others. So we'll talk a little bit of how you manage that. But before I move to the next slide, what I want to say is that in this case, if we were going to open the actions button, a new action will be added. to unassign. So you can unassign the request, and also the assign to will continue to be here because maybe you want to move it to someone else for some reason. And here's where I come to the viewing options of this. Anyone can view, everyone in Rapido can view everything, even if assigned to others. You can see here the facets, the Rapido facets, with the assignee there at the bottom of the facets, and you can select what you want to view. And I think there's option to view everything, but also you can view specific ones and assigned to you, assigned to others. Okay. So this is the assigning users functionality. And before we leave it, of course, there's a little configuration catch here. It's very little, but I do want you to be aware of it. We have under the configuration, under the fulfillment menu, and then other settings under general, we have two parameters that influence a bit the behavior that's happening here. So there's one parameter for borrowing, and there's one parameter for lending. Just a small note, they have default values. So I'll start with the default value. So what happens here? If someone the possibility to define here is that if you want requests that you modify, you edit and save them to be assigned to the user that's performing the change, you can do this automatically. And this is exactly what these two parameters are doing here. They're in charge of defining whether you want this to be automatically assigned. Now, here's the little catch. So those that are live, I want you just to pay attention. For the borrowing requests, the parameter by default is set to true, meaning they're not auto-assigned. So if you, after February release, you come in, you edit and save the request, it will not be automatically auto-assigned to you. The lending is set to false, which means that they will. So if you want to change, of course, this functionality to be different, please be aware of this upcoming change. I think that it makes, in some sense, it makes sense that the lending is set in this way. In Rapido, as you know, most of the requests don't need to be touched. They're go unmediated to the lender, but still, this is something that you need to define. Well, in the lending side, most of the work happens. So up to you guys. It's something you need to know and decide how you want to control it. So from the February release. Okay, not some of our Rapido customers are part of big ALMA fulfillment networks, automatic fulfillment networks, fulfillment networks in general. So many of you aren't, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details here. What is important for me to stress today is that we support this topology, and I just want to show you a little change that we did here in this term. So when you have a rota that is coming from the network in ALMA resource sharing, you cannot, from the institution, you cannot touch the rota, you cannot edit it, you cannot change everything. This rota for this type of customers actually is going to be the first pod priority or their second pod priority. Shortly, it's going to act like a pod. It doesn't matter which priority. In that sense, what we changed, and here I'm showing you that if I try to change the name or the type of the rota, I cannot really do anything. Also the members and the staff, I cannot do anything. But if I click this button, which means that I want to locally manage this network, this rota as a pod, then the fields at the institution level, again, this is on the institution level, these fields that are relevant for Rapido, you have them if you can define them. For example, a very common one is the delivery time. Then you can do that and and add this information that actually is only relevant for your institution, for your Rapido institution. So we're talking about usually combined a fulfillment network that is part of a that has members that are Rapido and that have members that are but this is a possibility and supported. So a little glance, because I want you to know that, of course, we're making an effort to support all the different topologies that we have and enable you to do resource sharing with everyone. Okay. And now to an API. This is a really, really cool development. I hope we can make sure that it's in use. I'll start with the middle. So we have an API that is starting with the second bullet. We've created an API that can actually perform the ship digitally action. This is from the lending side. So you have a lending request, which is a document delivery, a digitization request. And we know that there are scanners and applications that can integrate in a very efficient way so that library workflows are minimized or automated as much as possible. A good example in the market is Vscan. And actually, we worked on this development with Vscan to define how this would look. So the idea, again, is that while you as a lender are, you're scanning the resource and you scan the sleeve, so you have the ID of the request, then by performing all of these actions, this API can be used to automatically trigger the ship digitally, and actually once a request is shipped digitally, the workflow should finish, and this is just sent to the reader that wants to read from the borrowing side, and that's done. So the API is there. Again, we worked on this with the Vscan team, but the Vscan part of this still needs to be done by Vscan. So we're talking to them, but it's more dependent on their timeline. But from our side, we have finished the work. And also maybe just to mention that any other application that can integrate with that API, and we know there are more. I know that for sure, for example, in Europe, there's one that is being used by a customer of us that is doing an implementation now. The same API can be used to perform this and make this as efficient as possible. So once we know that the Vscan part is done from the Vscan side, we'll of course let you know, because we know we have customers that are using that application, those scanners and that application. Okay. Again, in terms of what we call the ecosystem and the networks, and opening up the world of resource sharing and enable you to work with partners that are working differently than you. We continue the work with ReShare. One of our customers, some of our customers are part of ReShare networks, and we continue to work together with ReShare. So what I wanted to show here, and we do have a few customers that are part of ReShare networks, is that in previous releases, what we did was the possibility for your users to place the borrowing request through Rapido, through Discovery, through our Primo, and define that ReShare is part of your pods, like a special pod, and that and put it in the priority that you want. And the system will go and look into ReShare to see if this request is there, and then be able to create this resource, this specific resource is part of the network. If it is found in the network, then create the request. So what we had with this upper part here, and it's all aligned with the ReShare, how would I call it? The terms that are used for ReShare, which is the shared index-based URL, etc. All of this information that we had in our previous releases was part of looking for the resource in the network, in the selected ReShare network, then using this part to be able to create the borrowing request there. And what we've added now actually is something that ensures that the request that is created on the ALMA side and that the request that is created on the ReShare side are really tight, and the ReShare ID is brought back into both. To make it short, both the borrowing request in ALMA and the borrowing request in ReShare are really connected, and any update that comes from actions done on the ReShare side will update the request on the ALMA side via NCIP messages. Just want a little, again, the terminology is all terminology based on the ReShare concept, so that you exactly know how to fill this in. Those that need this specific integration and need help, of course, will help you, but this should be very, very clear in terms of the terms, because we're using the same terms that we work together with the ReShare team. Now, a little point to note here for those that have this, that are part of these networks, is that once you add this information here, a job that is actually the job that is running all the time to see that everything is updated will be automatically enabled. And you can find it under your scheduled jobs. So it's ReShare updates job, and this you don't need to go and create it or activate it by yourself, but once you do this configuration, if you need it, the job will be automatically enabled. Okay. And now let's move to a very important section of today. So with our partners and people that are here in this meeting, we've talked a lot about how you test Rapido. And really, resource sharing, a big part of resource sharing is how hard it is to test, because it's not only testing a particular functionality in your own institution. Many times it depends on other institutions. So there's a lot of work needed for supporting the complete testing toolbox that you need. So today I'm going to present to you what you can do from February on your sandbox. But this is not the complete development, and in the future, very close future versions, we're working on releasing the whole toolbox of testing. Today, we'll talk about what you can do and what you cannot do on your sandbox. This is the first thing from that toolkit that we're releasing. So let's just jump into what you can do there. But again, wanted to mention that we continue to add more functionality there. So the green square is what you can do. The orange square is what you cannot do. So let's start with what you can do. So of course, creating and using the Rapido sets, accessing the borrowing task list, the lending task list, viewing everything, the menus, everything is just there. Using facets, printing, which is something that interests many people, multi-selecting of values, all of those actions that you have there. You can access Rapido configuration from the sandbox, which means you can test mediation rules, copyright rules, discovery configurations, very important, defining Rapido members. You can test peer-to-peer partners between sandboxes, so that's something you can do. Again, those configurations such as locally managed pods, adding terms, all of that you can check. Regarding discovery, which is, I know it's critical, it's the Rapido tiles, you can play with the labels, the request forms, all of these you can do from the sandbox, and placing and creating borrowing requests, okay? So let's see what you cannot do. So you cannot do an end-to-end Rapido workflow. The borrowing request is created, but the lending request is not created. So it means that up to the creation of the borrowing request, that's what you can test. Beyond the peer-to-peer testing, And that's it, but you can cancel the requests, all of those functionalities that are related directly with the borrowing request you can do. I just want to mention a little note for those that you will, if you try this also, it won't work because we're not creating the lending request. You cannot also use the fill locally action for this specific test because, as you know, fill locally creates also a lending request. So up until the creation of the borrowing request, you can do everything. And exactly the missing part, we're missing two parts here, which will be in upcoming releases. One is the end-to-end workflow. So pretty soon, stay tuned. And the second one is testing with a Rapido partner. So not a peer-to-peer sandbox from sandbox. So this is what, once we have these two new enhancements, you'll have the complete set under your hands for complete testing. Okay, and now to a bug, but I really want to talk about this bug. We've heard from you guys that the numbers that were presented under the facets and sometimes the Rapido sets and the actual Rapido requests that were shown in the task list were sometimes differing. So we had to do a fix there. There was a slight synchronization problem, and I just had to add this in my presentation because I wanted to let you know that this has been corrected with the February release. So I'm going to, for a sec, I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm also going to unmute. I think I can do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to. You're not hearing me twice. Me twice. You are. Or raise hands. You can mute yourself. I see everyone's remuting, but this is an opportunity maybe to ask questions.
When I first came out of the tunning, right?
Lee, I think Lee, right? I can hardly hear you. So, but I see you're trying to ask a question. Maybe you want to post it in the Q&A, and I'll try to answer you. I would prefer to have this as a conversation, but I can hardly hear you. So I would love to have your question posted if you have one. Really, I want to encourage you. Actually, we're not such a big crowd. I know you cannot see who's in the webinar, but really, please feel free to ask questions or post them in the Q&A, and I will be happy to answer them. Okay, while you think or maybe post the questions, I'm going to go back to sharing mode, and we'll try to cover that little configuration part that I wanted to talk with you today also, if we had time. And then at the end, I suppose we're going to have another opportunity for questions on anything, the February release, or any other question that you want to ask. So let me just share with you again. Okay, hope you're all seeing this again. And now what I'll try to do, if time permits, is bring you some little things that we've learned. Actually, they're not that little. So today I want to talk about the expand link that is used in Rapido to discover resources that are not held by your library. So what I want to talk today is how actually this is being configured by our live customers. So all of you, those that are here and and we'll see your own slide, your own library. Thank you. I just went in and took screen captures, but I wanted to show it because those that are going through the implementation process, just to think about this, when I demo Rapido, I usually I think it's expand beyond your library or something like that. But I do want to show you that really this is something to give a thought on. How do you want your user to experience this? So again, the idea is that they look for something in the library, they don't find it, and then they use this link. This is from St. Thomas that is already live. They will use this link actually to find more resources and place the request from a result. So let's take a look at how people are doing this, and it's really institutions are doing this differently. So this is from St. Thomas. Congratulations for being live. And this is from Bethel. Also, congratulations for being live. You can really see there are differences here. This is Brandeis, already live for a long time. And this is Ithaca, a different way of doing this. And this is Sydney University, the University of Sydney, also doing it differently. So again, just my little tip of the day is not only where it is found in the configuration, so you can find this under discovery labels, and all of the Rapido labels are under this configuration entry. And here you have the specific one for the link. But to make this a higher level conversation, also think how you want your users to experience that that new exploration option that you have with Rapido, and how you can change it and adapt it to how you think will be best for your users. So that's my little tip for today. And I'm really on time because usually I want to leave 15 minutes for questions. So I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see if there are questions in the Q&A, or if someone wants to comment and we can hear. You can unmute and try the, I don't know if you can unmute, but raise a hand or something and I can unmute you, and or write your question. We'll love to answer. Okay, great. Thank you, Rhonda. Where is the sandbox? So this is your Alma sandbox, okay? This is your standard Alma sandbox. It is just representing, it represents it has your Rapido configuration, so it's your standard or premium sandbox. I hope that answers you. So it's not a special environment, it's just the sandbox that you receive when you have your album. More questions? Okay, I'm not seeing a lot of questions. So a few notes before we end. Stay tuned for the user group. Those of you that want to participate, we'd love to have you there to continue our in-depth conversations about how Rapido should look. Make sure you're part of the Rapido listserv that you can find under the other listservs for other products. This is managed by the community, actually. And of course, don't forget to already register for our next month meeting. And lastly, if you want to share this with other colleagues, or you want to review it, I invite you to go to our on-demand programs. You'll be able to find this, I guess, a little bit later. Not immediately, but you'll be able to find it there. So thank you, everyone. See you next time. I'm going to stop the recording.